Hey everyone, get ready to dive deep because today's topic is one a lot of dog owners deal with: house soiling. It's for sure frustrating, but we're here to help you understand it and address it. And get this, we're going to be using insights from a source entirely focused on, you guessed it, canine behavioral problems.
So many folks just think, oh, it's just an accident. But trust me, there are often hidden reasons why our furry friends might be, well, struggling.
It's like they're sending us a message.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
see.
A message
Yeah.
that sometimes needs some serious cleanup. But hey, that's why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to uncover some surprising reasons behind house soiling, go through a real-life case, wait till you hear about Bella the Poodle, and arm you with some super practical tips for management and treatment.
I love it. Unmasking the mystery of the messy messages.
That's the spirit. And honestly, what's fascinating is how often house soiling points to something deeper going on. Like whether it's medical or behavioral, it's rarely just plain disobedience.
Okay, so let's get into those potential causes then. What are some of the reasons, besides maybe just needing a potty break, why a dog might start having accidents inside, even if they were, totally house trained before?
Well, medical issues are a huge GE one. We're talking UTIs, kidney stones, even GI problems. These can all lead to, well, basically loss of control.
Oh, wow. So, like, if we had a kidney stone, we wouldn't be thinking about going outside either.
Precisely. And think about it.
Hmm.
These things can pop up at any point in a dog's life, even if they've been accident-free for years.
Makes sense. Sometimes we owners can jump to conclusions about bad behavior without realizing it could be something medical going on. So, medical stuff aside, what else should we be thinking about?
Training, or rather, the lack of it. Maybe the dog just needs a refresher course, or maybe there's been a slip-up in that consistent reinforcement we all need. Look, everyone makes mistakes, right? Me, you, and our furry friends too. But that's why that consistent positive reinforcement is so important, especially when it comes to house training.
I've heard some people say crate training is the answer for house soiling. Others say avoid it like the plague. What's your take on crates in these situations?
It's a great question, and I'll be honest, it really depends on the individual dog and the root of the house soiling. For some, especially pups still learning bladder control, crates can be great. Dogs naturally don't want to soil their den, right? But if the house soiling is tied to anxiety or a medical issue, well, forcing them into a crate when they're already anxious or not feeling well, not a good mix.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Figuring out why it's happening is key.
Exactly. And speaking of figuring things out, let's not forget about good old stress and anxiety. Moving to a new place, a new baby in the family, even a change in your work schedule. These can all be huge stressors for dogs that lead to accidents.
So it's like they regress in their training because they're overwhelmed by all this newness.
You got it. Picture this. They were perfectly house-trained in their old environment, but now they're just trying to cope with all this change.
Wow, poor pups. Okay, so we've got medical stuff, training consistency, and stress and anxiety. Anything else we got to watch out for?
Yes, the classic marking territory.
Yeah.
Especially common in dogs who haven't been spayed or neutered.
Yeah.
It's those primal instincts, got to establish their domain.
It's crazy how much those instincts still drive them, even though they're, like, living in our homes with us.
I know, right? They might be leaving little presents in specific spots to communicate with other dogs, even if those other dogs aren't even around.
Like their own version of dog social media.
You could say that. Leaving their mark, literally.
All right, so we've covered some of the WHYs of house soiling. Let's say we're taking our dog to the vet with this issue. What can we expect? Like, how does a vet go about figuring this whole thing out?
Well, the vet's going to want to be a detective, right? So first things first, they'll get a super detailed history of your dog. Their age, their breed, any changes in their behavior you've noticed, how often the accidents are happening, where they're happening.
So, like, they're piecing together the clues.
Exactly. And don't forget, they'll ask about any other symptoms, too. Is your dog straining to pee? Any blood in their urine? Changes in how much they're eating or drinking? It's all part of the puzzle.
So they start with the basics and then dig deeper if they need to. Makes sense.
You got it. And honestly, how they approach managing the house soiling, well, that all depends on what they find during that initial detective work.
So are there any, like, general strategies for dealing with this, regardless of what the cause is?
No matter what, thorough cleaning is a must. And I'm not just talking about getting rid of the smell. We got to eliminate ANY trace of urine or feces that could attract the dog back to that spot. Enzymatic cleaners, those are your best friend here.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about the ick factor. It's about, like, preventing future accidents.
Bingo. Those enzymes, they actually break down the molecules in urine and feces, so your dog's less likely to be drawn back to that same spot.
Wow, it's like erasing the evidence completely.
You could say that.
Okay, so cleaning is step one. What about actual medical solutions?
If the vet finds that the house soiling is because of something medical, like that UTI or kidney stones we talked about, well, then treating that is priority number one. Could involve meds, changes to their diet, even surgery in some cases.
So once the medical problem's gone, the accidents should stop too, right?
A lot of the time, yes. But it's not always that simple. Sometimes even after the medical problem is fixed, the dog might keep having accidents just out of habit, or because they're still stressed even though the physical issue is gone. That's why thinking about those emotional triggers is so important.
So it might not be a quick fix. We might need a multi-pronged approach to get both the physical and the emotional stuff sorted out.
Exactly. And that's what we'll dive into more in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore those behavioral management techniques, how to pinpoint those emotional triggers, and how to help your dog cope with all that stress and anxiety.
Can't wait for that. But first, we got to take a little pause. When we're back, we'll be getting even deeper into the behavioral side of house soiling, learning how to decode your dog's behavior like a pro. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So before the break, we were getting into this whole idea of house soiling being like a two-sided coin, right? There's the medical side and the behavioral side.
Exactly. And just like you said, it's like solving a mystery. We got to find all the clues to figure out what's really going on.
Okay, so let's talk about being detectives then. When it comes to our own dog's behavior, what are some of those key clues we should be looking for? What are those telltale signs that maybe, just maybe, there's more to the story than just, oops, I had an accident?
Well, think about it this way. Where are those accidents happening?
Mm.
Same spot every time. Maybe it's near certain objects or like by the doors or windows. That can mean they're anxious about being left alone.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, my dog, if she's stressed out, sometimes has accidents right by the front door, almost like she wants to escape.
See? That's a classic example. The anxiety's coming out as house soiling. It's a good reminder that, our dogs can't just tell us they're stressed like we can. We got to learn their language.
Right, like they can't just say, hey, I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed right now.
Nope. So pay attention to anything different in their behavior that's happening around the same time as the accidents. Are they extra clingy, pacing more, whining, or maybe even hiding or acting scared or aggressive? All of these could be signs that something's stressing them out.
So basically, we got to be more aware of how they're feeling overall, not just focus on the accidents themselves.
You got it. And another big clue is timing. When are these accidents usually happening? Right after you leave the house. Maybe after something changes in their routine, like a visitor comes over, or there's a loud noise. Or is it totally random, like you can't find any pattern at all?
Wow, this detective work is getting serious. It's not just cleaning up, it's like gathering evidence.
That's the spirit. And hey, remember, you're not alone in this. Your vet is your partner in crime solving here. They can help you make sense of those behavioral clues and come up with a plan that works for your dog.
All right, so let's say we've done our detective work, talked to our vet, and we're pretty sure it's not a medical problem. What are some actual things we can do to fix the behavioral side of house soiling?
Well, we touched on this earlier, but consistent house training is key. Think of it like a refresher course, even for dogs who are already house trained.
Back to basics. What does that look like, practically speaking?
Potty schedule. Gotta have one. Take your dog out often, especially first thing in the morning after they eat and right before bed. Now, be patient. Accidents happen, but keep that routine going strong and always, always reward your dog with praise and treats when they do their business in the right spot.
And of course, no punishment. That just makes them scared and more anxious.
You know it. Positive vibes only. Make going potty outside a fun, happy experience for them.
Okay, so consistent potty breaks, lots of positive reinforcement. What else can we do to set them up for success?
Managing their environment, especially if anxiety or separation anxiety is playing a role, that's huge GE. Make sure they have a safe, comfy space, a cozy bed, their favorite toys, maybe even one of those pheromone diffusers.
Oh, yeah, I've heard those can be really helpful. How do those work exactly?
Basically, they release these synthetic pheromones that naturally calm dogs down and make them feel safe. It's like creating a little doggy spa for them. Helps reduce anxiety and just makes them feel better overall. You can also try to minimize things that might trigger them. Like, if they freak out when you leave, try leaving them with a puzzle toy filled with treats, or a frozen Kong, something to keep them busy,
Mm.
or try a white noise machine or some calming music to block out any scary sounds.
Such good ideas. What about exercise? We talked about that before in terms of helping dogs with stress.
Oh, for sure. Physical activity, it's crucial, both physically and mentally. A tired dog is a happy dog and way less likely to have accidents.
Mm.
Make sure they're getting enough exercise each day, whether it's a walk, a run, some fetch, even just playing in the yard. It all helps.
Wow, so we're really thinking about their physical, emotional, and environmental needs. It's like a whole dog approach.
You got it. And remember, there's no magic formula here. Every
Right.
dog's different, right? So think about their personality, their history, and what specifically makes them anxious to come up with a plan that works for them.
It's like being a dog whisperer, trying to understand their language and make them feel safe and loved.
I love that. And hey, even if you're doing everything right, accidents happen. Just stay patient, no punishments, and focus on building that strong, positive relationship with your dog.
That bond is so important. It's not just about stopping accidents, it's about creating a good relationship where everyone feels understood and supported.
You said it perfectly. And remember, even with the best efforts, there will be times when accidents happen. It's important to stay patient, avoid punishment, and focus on the progress, no matter how small it might seem.
Well, we've covered so much today, but before we wrap up, let's talk about Bella's story. You mentioned she's a great example of how complex these situations can be.
Oh, Bella's story is a classic. Remember, she's a 5-year-old poodle who was totally house-trained until, well, recently.
Yeah, and her owner, Lisa, was understandably confused and frustrated because Bella had never had this problem before.
Out of the blue, Lisa started noticing some things, like Bella was straining to pee, seemed uncomfortable, and even started getting anxious, like pacing and whining whenever Lisa was about to leave the house.
So clearly something was wrong, but it wasn't obvious what.
Exactly. So Lisa, smart cookie, took Bella to the vet to get checked out. The vet did a physical exam, found Bella was a little overweight, and had some tenderness in her belly. They did a urinalysis, and boom, signs of UTI bacteria and elevated white blood cells.
Ah, so there was a medical reason.
Yep. But there was a behavioral side, too. The vet thought Bella might also have separation anxiety, which could be making her need to pee more urgently and frequently.
So two problems in one, both medical and behavioral. What happened next?
Well, first things first, antibiotics for that UTI. And the vet wanted Lisa to bring Bella back in a couple of weeks for another urinalysis to make sure the infection was gone. But they also gave Lisa some tips on how to handle the separation anxiety. They said to try gradually desensitizing Bella to being alone, starting with short trips away and slowly increasing the time, and lots of rewards for staying calm. They suggested leaving Bella with puzzle toys or a Kong filled with treats to keep her busy when Lisa wasn't home. Oh, and having a consistent routine for potty breaks, especially after meals and before Lisa left for work.
So it was like a two-pronged attack, medical treatment, A&D, behavioral management. Did they suggest anything else?
They did. They told Lisa to make a comfy space for Bella when she was alone, like with her bed and favorite toys. Even suggested using a thunder shirt or a pheromone diffuser to help Bella chill out.
Wow, they really thought of everything. So how did Bella do with all of this?
The good news is, within a week, Bella wasn't peeing as much, and she wasn't as anxious when Lisa left. That follow-up urinalysis showed no more infection, and eventually, Bella was back to her old, house-trained self.
That's amazing. So that multifaceted approach really worked for her. It's interesting, it wasn't just about treating the UTI, it was dealing with that separation anxiety too. That was a big part of the solution.
Exactly. It just goes to show you got to look at everything when you're dealing with house soiling. Treating one problem without the other might not cut it.
Bella's story gives me hope. It shows that even when it seems complicated, there's usually a way to fix it if we just find all those missing puzzle pieces.
You said it. Every dog's an individual, and every situation's different. But with the right knowledge, the right tools, and a little support, you can help your dog get through this and live a happier, healthier life.
Wow, Bella's story is really inspiring, It makes me feel like even when it seems like a really tough situation, there's hope.
Oh, absolutely. And, that's something I really want to emphasize for all the listeners out there. You are not alone in this. House soiling is super common, and there's help out there. So don't hesitate to reach out, whether it's to your vet, a certified dog trainer. Even those online communities can be super helpful. There are people who get IT.
It's true, you can feel so isolated when you're dealing with this day in and day out. But like you said, there's a whole community out there.
And you know what else? I'd love it if listeners would share their own experiences too. Have they dealt with this? What worked for them? Sharing those stories and tips can help everyone learn and grow as dog owners.
It's like we're all in this together, figuring it out as we go.
Exactly. And it kind of ties into this bigger idea of thinking about your dog's well-being as a whole. House soiling, it's often a symptom of something else, like we've been saying.
Hmm?
Could be medical, stress, maybe they weren't trained properly in the first place. But by figuring out that root cause, you're not just fixing the accidents. You're making your dog's whole life better.
So important. It's not just about the mess, it's about them being happy and healthy.
100%. Now, think about everything we've talked about today. Think about your dog. What have you noticed? Are there any patterns, any clues that could help you figure out why this is happening?
Yeah, that's a great question for everyone listening. It's like we've given them a whole new way of looking at their dog's behavior.
Exactly. And don't brush anything off. Even little things can be important. The more you notice, the better you'll be able to tackle this whole house soiling thing.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I've learned so much.
I'm glad. And just remember, with the right info, the right tools, and a good dose of patience, you can help your furry friend get past this and have a happy, accident-free life.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those tails wagging.
Love it. And that's a wrap on this episode, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the deep dive, and we'll see you next time.